Not only did it lower melatonin levels in these animals, but also shorten the time to puberty, which is absolutely consistent. Melatonin is thought to act like a biological clock, involved with timing of puberty, timing of aging, timing of jet lag and sleeping patterns and so on. Controls all kinds of things. And what they think happens with the child, at birth, the melatonin levels are high, and with childhood they gradually lower, and at a certain point, the lowered melatonin levels trigger the production of the sex hormones, leading to puberty. Ironically, that first study that was published, which I already referred to in the bones, also recorded that the young girls in the fluoridated community, Newburgh, were menstruating on average 5 months earlier than the young girls in the non-fluoridated community. Now, they didn't think that was significant at the time. Now, with Jennifer Luke's work, it is clearly takes on a new perspective. Kids now are reaching puberty 7, 8, 9. It has people very, very worried. But once again, the fluoridating countries have made absolutely no effort to reproduce Jennifer Luke's work. And it's not difficult. They could have done it easily. The Department of Health and Human Services has adopted to this, quote, sacred policy of fluoridation is to deny, critique the methodologies, but don't attempt to reproduce the studies. If you don't look, you don't find. And they're using the absence of study as if it was the same as the absence of harm, which is absolutely ridiculous, utterly irresponsible. So now they're giving every indication, particularly the Center of Disease Control that avidly promotes fluoridation around the United States, and around the world for that matter. The impression that they give is that it's more important now to protect this practice than to protect the health of the American people and our babies and our children. It's almost as if the teeth have become the most important tissue, the most important organ in the body, instead of our brains, instead of our thyroid glands, instead of our pineal glands, instead of our kidneys. Obviously, we would like to get fluoride out of Austin, which would have national and international significance if we could pull that off. And you've got a lot of good people working to that end. But it's not going to happen overnight. It may take 1 or 2 years to get that. In the interim, what we want, and what we asked the commissioners this morning and asked the council members a couple of days ago, was please insist that the water department puts a warning notice to parents that they should not use fluoridated tap water to make up baby formula. Then you have to ask the question, well, do the benefits outweigh the risks? So we got all those risks that I went through. We put those in one scale pan. Now let's have a look at the benefits. Well, first of all, you cannot find a difference in tooth decay today between fluoridated countries and non-fluoridated countries, between fluoridated states and non-fluoridated states, and a recent study in New York between fluoridated counties and non-fluoridated counties. And the largest survey ever conducted in the United States in 1986-1987 by pro-fluoridation researchers working for the National Institute of Dental Research, they looked at 39,000 children in 84 communities. And the biggest difference that they could find between children who had lived all their lives in a fluoridated community compared to children who lived all their lives in a non-fluoridated community was a saving of 0.6, 6/10 of one tooth surface. Not one tooth. There are between 4 and 5 surfaces to a tooth, depending on whether you're talking about the cutting teeth or the rest of the teeth. Between 4 and 5 surfaces to a tooth. Altogether, by the time all the teeth have come out in a child's mouth, there are 128 tooth surfaces. And we are saying that this huge experiment with the health of the American people is being justified on the basis of saving 0.6 of one tooth surface. And that is the largest study conducted in the United States on benefits. Fluoridation is one of the top 10 public health achievements of the 20th century. That statement is cited nearly every day somewhere in the world. And those people that are citing it don't realize that the paper on which it's based is junk science. It was written by a dentist that had never written anything on fluoridation before, and an economist. Those two people have persuaded the world that fluoridation is one of the top 10 public health achievements of the 20th century. What they should have told them, it's one of the greatest betrayals of the public's trust in the 20th century. The argument, which is the strongest argument, and has always been the strongest argument against fluoridation, and the one that Alex Jones knows so well, and that is that fluoridation is a violation of our informed consent to medicine. And if you don't know what that is, go to their webpage of the American Medical Association. They clearly explain what informed consent requires. It requires the doctor to tell the patient what the side effects might be, what the benefits are, and the patient is allowed to choose whether they take that medicine or not. He cannot, or she cannot, force the patient to take that medicine. They can advise you, but they can't force you. That right has been taken away from 180 million Americans. And what is happening now is whole communities, local governments, state governments, in some countries, federal governments, are doing to the whole community what an individual doctor can do to not one single patient, force them to take medication. Since 1945, the water supply has never been used to deliver medicine. Because once you put a medicine in the water supply, you can't control the dose, because you can't control how much water people drink. It also goes to everybody. You can't control who gets it. It goes to the very young, the very old, the people who are sick, the people who have poor kidney function, people who have poor nutrition. Now, there are some crazy doctors out there who are suggesting that we put lithium in the water supply to reduce suicides, and statins to reduce heart problems and so on. I don't think they're getting much traction, but the very fact that they're trying is worrying. Once again, you can't control the dose, and things like lithium have a very narrow range of sensitivity, so you can easily expose people to too much. In fact, before fluoridation, they did have an experiment where they put iodine in the water. And they had to stop immediately because some people were coming down with hyperthyroidism, too much iodine, not too little, but too much. So it's very rare that you can have a drug that you can say to people, take as much as you want. Go into your pharmacy and say, is there any drug that you don't have to control the dose? Is there any drug that you can give to anybody in the population, regardless of their health, nutritional status, or age? Is there any drug that you can give that has no individual supervision? Is there any drug that you can give that doesn't have the Food and Drug Administration collecting side effect data? And the answer to all those questions from a pharmacist is no, 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 and no. It's a lousy practice. It should never have started. It should be ended as soon as possible. And whilst we're at it, that we should get banned off the face of the earth, these ridiculous products, which is so-called nursery water, designed to give to babies, and they put fluoride in it. So if you give your baby this, you're giving that baby 250 times more fluoride than that baby would get from mother's milk. You are in essence saying that Mother Nature screwed up on baby's first meal if you use this. Secondly, the Center of Disease Control in 1999 conceded that the major benefits of fluoride, if they exist, is topical. It works on the outside of the tooth, not from inside the body. So this is totally useless. Yeah, this is designed for the baby before their teeth have erupted. It doesn't touch their teeth. There's no topical benefit. There's only harm. There's only harm. It's utterly irresponsible, and I don't understand why it is that the Food and Drug Administration is not stepping in to ban this. This is unacceptable. Let me tell you another absurdity. This is like Monty Python, because the Food and Drug Administration has never regulated fluoride for ingestion, even though it's the most prescribed drug in American history. The FDA does regulate toothpaste. And if you look at the back of a tube of toothpaste, a fluoridated toothpaste, it says only use a small pea-sized amount, and then it says, this is the FDA warning, if more than recommended amounts of toothpaste are accidentally swallowed, then get medical help or contact a poison control center. Well, let's do a little bit of arithmetic. A pea-sized amount of fluoridated toothpaste contains about 1/4 of a milligram of fluoride. Now, we fluoridate at 1 part per million. That's 1 milligram per liter. 1/4 of a milligram of fluoride would be in 1/4 liter of water, or 250 milliliters, or 1 large glass of water. Okay, Monty Python, come in. Oh, I think you should put a notice over the tap. Don't swallow this water. And if you drink more than 1 glass of water, contact a poison center immediately. It is incredible. It's laughable. I have a theory. I haven't tested it, but I suspect that the individuals at the FDA that put that warning on the back of a tube of toothpaste probably outraged that they'd never been allowed to regulate fluoridated water for obvious reasons, that they weren't able to protect the health of the American people. And I suspect that they put that label on the toothpaste to sabotage the fluoridation program. A pea-sized amount of toothpaste is equal to 1/4 of a milligram of fluoride, which is equal to 1 glass of water. In 2003, the United States Environmental Protection Agency asked the National Research Council to review its safe drinking water standard for water, which is 4 parts per million. After 3 years, a balanced panel produced this 507-page report with 1,100 references. I was one of the only anti-fluoridation scientists that testified before this panel. They gave me 45 minutes immediately after the Center for Disease Control, and I'm happy to say that much of what's in this report vindicates what I've been telling communities for the previous 13 years or so. So they advise the EPA that this 4 parts per million standard was not safe and that they needed to lower it. And they recommended that the EPA determine a new standard which would require a health risk assessment. Well, if you join the dots, they did all the work for the EPA here. If you join the dots and looked at the lowest levels which cause known harmful effects and apply an adequate margin of safety, the new safe drinking water standard goal, that's the science-based goal, would be less than 1 part per million. And that would end fluoridation just like that. Why then, after 4.5 years, has the EPA not joined these dots? Well, the answer is simple. They could easily do it. You could do it in a day or two. Robert Carton, a former EPA risk assessment specialist at the EPA, within a few weeks had written an article saying the new MCLG based upon this should be 0. But after 4.5 years, the EPA has not done this. Why? Because they know that if they come back with an MCLG less than 1 part per million, it will scuttle the fluoridation program. And they daren't do this because they've got the Department of Health and Human Services breathing down their necks. They daren't do it, and so just like industry, it's delay, delay, delay in this case. Now, the EPA scientists, on the other hand, that's the administrators, okay? The administrators, people at the top have made that decision. But the rank and file EPA scientists are opposed to fluoridation. The EPA scientists know that when that EPA standard of 4 parts per million was determined in 1986, the deck was rigged. They knew it. They knew it was a false standard. It was set at 4 parts per million for political reasons, not only to protect the fluoridation program, but also to save states like South Carolina spending a fortune removing natural fluoride. So it was artificially set too high at 4 parts per million.